everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at tarot.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to understand it a little better and,
Yeah.
using it in a way that can help you gain some insight and clarity.
Definitely.
Now, the really cool thing is we're basing this deep dive on excerpts from Understanding and Using Tarot. I mean, it's amazing, right? Like, people have been using these cards for centuries.
It is fascinating how...
They try to, just understand themselves better.
Yeah, and while it might seem a little mysterious at first,
Right.
it can be a really powerful tool.
I'm excited to unpack it all with you today. So for someone who's like never even held a tarot deck, what is tarot in a nutshell?
So in a nutshell, it's a system that uses a deck of 78 cards.
Okay.
Filled with all kinds of archetypes and symbols.
Okay.
And these archetypes are basically universal patterns of human behavior and experience.
Okay.
Like, for example, the archetype of the hero.
Right.
That's something that we find in stories all across cultures.
Right. I see. So it's not like fortune telling. It's more about using these like archetypes to understand more about ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. I can already see how that would be helpful.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've got these 78 cards.
Yes.
And they're divided into two parts.
Correct.
Major and Minor Arcana. What's the difference?
So the Major Arcana...
which has 22 cards, by the way.
Yeah, the 22 cards in the Major Arcana, they deal with big life themes.
Okay.
Like
what kind of?
Significant life lessons.
Yeah.
Profound changes, spiritual journeys. I mean, the Fool, the Lover's Death.
Ooh.
Just the names themselves are pretty intriguing.
They're very intense.
Right.
Yeah, but I guess it's part of life, right? Those big moments.
Yeah.
What about the Minor Arcana? What are those cards about?
So those cards focus more on day-to-day experiences.
Okay.
Relationships, challenges.
Right.
Just kind of everyday situations that we find ourselves in.
Got it.
And it's divided into 4 suits.
Oh, this is where it sounds like a fantasy novel to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the 4 suits?
Cups, Pentacles, Swords,
and
Wands.
Okay.
Each of those suits is connected to an element and a different area of life.
Hold on. Elements. Suits. I am intrigued. Tell me more.
Okay, so for example, Pentacles.
Okay.
They are associated with the element of earth.
Okay.
So they often represent the material world.
I see.
Finances, career, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then cups, on the other hand, they connect to water. So they deal with your emotions, relationships, and intuition.
Okay.
Swords linked to air. So thoughts, communication, intellect.
Gotcha.
And then finally, wands are all about fire.
Okay.
Action, creativity, willpower.
Okay. So this is starting to click for me.
Yeah.
So like if I was super stressed about a presentation at work,
Okay.
I should be looking out for those sword cards.
That's a really good example.
Yeah.
Because swords often come up when we're dealing with mental challenges,
Okay.
communication issues, difficult decisions.
Yeah.
You could even use the cards to explore different ways to approach the presentation.
Okay.
One thing to keep in mind with each of those suits is that you also have what are called court cards.
Okay.
So these are pages, knights, queens, and kings. And they can represent different people or aspects of your personality.
Oh, wow. This is way more complex than I imagined.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It's like a whole language.
It is.
So how does somebody who's never used this before even begin to use tarot? Like, where do you even start?
Well, I think a great place to start is by simply connecting with your deck.
What does that mean?
Spending time with the cards.
Okay.
Really looking at the imagery, the colors, the symbols.
Yeah.
Kind of like getting to know a new friend.
I love that. But like, what do you actually do with the cards?
Well, you can shuffle them.
Okay.
Mix up the energy a little bit. Infuse them with your own intentions.
Okay.
Some people like to cleanse them with sage or crystals.
Right.
Whatever feels right to you. The key is just to make the deck feel like an extension of yourself.
I see. I see. I tried using tarot a while back.
Okay.
And I just felt lost. I kept asking questions like, will I get that job? Or is this relationship going to work out?
Oh, right.
What was I doing wrong?
You were asking yes or no questions for a truly insightful reading.
Okay.
It's best to ask open-ended questions. So instead of asking, will I get that job? Ask, what do I need to know about this job opportunity?
Okay.
Or what steps can I take to increase my chances of success?
So instead of looking for just a simple answer, I'm like looking for
exploring the bigger picture.
Yeah, the bigger picture.
Got it.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so then how do tarot spreads fit into all of this?
So tarot spreads, they are like frameworks for your reading.
Okay.
Think of them as a different lens through which to view a situation.
Okay.
There are so many spreads out there.
So, like, what are a couple that a beginner could try?
Well, one of the simplest is a one-card pull.
Okay.
You ask a question, shuffle the deck, and draw a single card.
Okay.
And that card gives you a nice focused piece of guidance.
Got it.
And then there's the 3-card spread.
Okay.
This is usually laid out as past, present, future,
Mm-hmm.
and it helps you to understand the flow of energy around your question.
I tried a 3-card spread once, but I just didn't know how to connect the cards.
Okay.
It felt like I was getting 3 separate messages
Yeah.
instead of like a cohesive story.
I see. So, for example, let's say you drew
Okay.
the 5 of Swords for the past,
Okay.
the Hermit for the present,
Okay.
and the Sun for the future.
Okay.
What might that tell you?
The 5 of Swords, I think that's something about conflict. So
Mhm.
maybe there was some kind of struggle in the past.
Yeah.
And the Hermit, I think, is about solitude. So
Yeah.
maybe right now I need some time alone to reflect.
Mm-hmm.
And the Sun is a positive card, so maybe a brighter, more joyful
Right.
time is coming.
Yeah.
So you see how those cards create a narrative
Yeah.
when you look at them together.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
And then the third spread that I'll mention is the Celtic Cross.
Oh, okay.
This is a 10-card spread.
10 cards.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds intimidating.
It can be,
Yeah.
but it gives you a much more in-depth look at a situation.
Okay.
Yeah. It covers everything from like the heart of the matter
Yeah.
to the challenges, external influences, potential outcomes.
Okay. I'm starting to get a feel for these different spreads.
Yeah.
But once I have my spread laid out in front of me, how do I actually interpret the cards?
Right. So that's where the real magic of tarot comes in.
Go.
Because each card has its own specific meaning.
Yeah.
It's kind of like learning a new language.
Do I need to like memorize every meaning?
You don't have to worry about memorizing everything.
Okay.
You can start by learning keywords for each card.
Okay.
So, for example, the Fool often signifies new beginnings,
Mm-hmm.
taking risks, a sense of childlike wonder. But those keywords are just a starting point.
So there's more to it than just those keywords.
Yeah.
Okay.
For one thing, the position of the card within the spread will influence its meaning.
Okay.
And even more importantly, you want to pay attention to how the cards interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
The combinations can really give you much deeper insights.
So it's not just about individual cards. It's about
Right.
how they work together.
Yes. The story that they create together.
Can you give me like an example of a powerful card combination?
Yeah. So, for example, imagine drawing the Tower card,
Okay.
which we talked about earlier, represents upheaval and sudden change.
Yeah.
Now, imagine that card appears next to the Star,
Which is...
which symbolizes hope and renewal.
Okay.
What might that suggest?
So like even though things might be falling apart,
Mhm.
there's a promise of something better on the horizon.
Exactly.
Okay.
So even amidst that chaos, there's potential for growth and transformation.
I like that. And then what about the symbolism within the cards themselves?
Yes. So pay attention to recurring themes,
Like what?
like water, swords, animals,
Okay.
even colors.
So I shouldn't just like glance at the cards. I should really
Right.
take some time.
Look closely.
Yeah, and try
See
to
what's there.
understand what they're telling me.
Yeah. You're bringing your own intuition and personal experience to the reading as well.
Okay. This is where it gets really magical for me.
Yeah.
But before we go too far down that path, let's talk about
Yeah.
some of the myths and misconceptions surrounding tarot.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's a lot of skepticism out there.
Oh, absolutely. And those misconceptions can make tarot feel really intimidating
Okay.
or even scary to some people.
Yeah.
But once you understand the true purpose of tarot,
Yeah.
it becomes much less daunting.
Okay. So let's debunk some of those myths.
Okay.
What's like the biggest misconception that you encounter?
Probably the biggest one is that tarot rigidly predicts the future.
Oh.
That it's like a crystal ball that reveals your predetermined fate.
That-
But that's not how it works at all.
Okay.
Tarot offers insights into potential outcomes
Mm-hmm.
and the energies surrounding a situation.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you have free will.
So it's more like a GPS than a crystal ball.
Yes. I love that analogy.
Okay.
Shows you the possible routes,
Yeah.
but you are the one holding the steering wheel.
I'm glad because I don't like the idea
Yeah.
of my future already being decided for me.
Yeah.
What about people who think that you have to be psychic
Oh, yeah.
to read tarot?
That's another common one.
Yeah.
And that's simply not true.
Okay. Good.
Intuition is a muscle that everyone can develop,
Right.
and it gets stronger with practice.
Because I wouldn't say that I'm psychic, but I definitely believe in intuition.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And tarot actually helps you tap into that inner wisdom
Okay.
and learn to trust your gut feelings.
Got it.
So it's not about supernatural abilities. It's about honing your own perceptive skills.
Okay, I have a confession. Whenever I see a reversed card, I get a little nervous.
Oh, with the dreaded reverse cards.
Yeah.
That's another big misconception.
Okay.
Reversed cards are not inherently negative.
Oh, good.
They often suggest a blockage.
Okay.
Or a need to look at something from a different perspective.
Okay, so not bad, just different.
Exactly.
Okay.
Sometimes a reverse card simply means that the energy is turned inward.
Okay.
Or that you need to approach a situation from a different angle.
Got it. You're making me feel much more comfortable
Yeah.
about exploring tarot. It feels a lot less scary now.
I'm glad.
Yeah. So what's the best way for someone who's listening to get started with tarot? Like, what advice would you give a complete beginner?
I would say approach tarot with an open mind and a sense of curiosity. Embrace the learning process.
Okay.
There's no need to rush.
Right.
Take your time and allow yourself to make mistakes.
It's about the journey, not the destination.
Exactly.
Where can people go to learn more about tarot?
Well, understanding and using tarot.
Which we're already exploring.
Yes, that's a fantastic starting point.
Okay.
It lays out the basics really well. There's also some excellent websites.
Okay.
Online communities. Even apps dedicated to tarot.
Wow.
You can even find a local group or a class.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. When I first started, I felt so overwhelmed.
All right.
So, like, having some resources or a community would have been great.
Yes. And journaling your readings can be incredibly helpful.
Ooh, like a tarot diary.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I love that. So someone's ready to take the plunge.
Okay.
What kind of deck would you recommend for beginners?
The Rider-Waite deck is a classic choice.
Okay.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
It's widely available, and the imagery is just so rich with symbolism.
Yeah.
But honestly, there are so many beautiful decks out there.
Yeah.
Choose one that speaks to you visually.
It's like finding a friend who's going to help you on this journey.
Exactly.
It shouldn't feel like a chore.
It should.
Okay, so as we're getting to the end of part one of this deep dive into tarot, I have a thought-provoking question for our listener.
Right.
What area of your life are you most curious to explore using tarot? Is it your career path? Relationships? Personal growth?
Yeah.
Take a moment to reflect on that as we move into part two.
We'll be right back.
I'm already feeling a lot more confident about exploring tarot, and I hope our listener is too.
It's been a pleasure sharing this.
Thank you so much for your expertise.
Of course.
And passion for tarot.
It's my pleasure.
We will be right back.
All right.
With part two. Welcome back to our deep dive into tarot. Before the break, we were talking about how to get started with tarot. And, you left us with that question. What area of our lives are we most curious to explore using tarot? Did you have a chance to think about that?
I hope so. It's something to keep in mind as we delve deeper into the cards themselves.
Okay, so let's talk about some specific cards.
Okay.
Earlier you mentioned keywords. Can you walk us through how to use those to interpret a card?
Sure. So let's take the Fool card as an example. Some keywords associated with the Fool are new beginnings, taking a leap of faith, innocence, and a sense of adventure.
Okay, but those are just a starting point.
Right, exactly. Context is key.
So how do you go beyond the keywords?
So let's say, for instance, the Fool shows up in a reading about your career.
Okay.
It might suggest that it's a time to embrace new opportunities, even if they feel a bit risky.
Okay.
Or if the Fool appears in a reading about your love life, it could indicate the start of a new relationship or a fresh approach to an existing one.
I see. So the same card can have different nuances depending on the situation.
Right.
It's like how the word bright can describe sunshine or a smart person.
That's a great analogy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And don't forget your own intuition plays a big role in interpretation too.
Okay. What does the image on the card evoke for you? What feelings or memories come up? Trust those insights.
Yeah, sometimes I just get this gut feeling about a card. And it might not even be directly related to the traditional keywords.
Okay.
But it feels important. Should I pay attention to that?
Absolutely. I think that your personal connection to the cards is one of the most powerful aspects of tarot.
Okay.
There's no right or wrong answer as long as your interpretation feels authentic to you.
Okay. This is making me think about those 3 card spreads again. You explain how to connect the cards to create a story.
Yeah.
But what if I draw a combination that seems confusing or even contradictory.
Oh, that's where things get really interesting.
We do that.
Those challenging combinations often hold the most valuable insights.
Okay.
So let's say you're asking about your career.
Okay.
And you draw the Tower card.
Which represents?
Which we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Represents upheaval and sudden change.
Oh, boy. Okay, so already I'm thinking this career path is about to get bumpy.
Maybe, but let's say the next card you draw is the World, which symbolizes completion, fulfillment, a sense of wholeness. Now, what do you think?
So maybe the upheaval leads to something really positive. Like you lose your job, but it forces you to pursue your true passion.
Right.
And ultimately find a career that really fulfills you.
Exactly. Sometimes what seems like a negative event can actually be a catalyst for incredible growth.
Okay.
The cards are encouraging you to look beyond that initial chaos and see the bigger picture.
I like that. Sometimes it seems like opposite cards can actually complement each other.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of that?
Sure. So imagine you draw the Emperor,
okay,
which represents structure, authority, discipline,
yeah,
and right next to it you draw the Star.
Okay.
Symbolizing hope, inspiration, and a connection to something bigger than yourself.
Okay. At first glance, those seem pretty different.
Yeah,
right?
they do.
The Emperor is so grounded and practical, and the Star feels so much more like ethereal and idealistic.
Right.
How do those go together?
Well, think about it this way. Maybe you're working on a creative project
Okay.
that requires both structure and inspiration.
Okay.
The Emperor might represent the discipline needed to stick to a schedule and see the project through.
Yeah.
While the Star brings the creative sparks and the belief in your vision.
Oh, I see.
So they work together to create something truly special.
It's like you need both the head and the heart.
Exactly.
To achieve your goals.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love most about tarot.
Yeah.
It encourages you to embrace paradox and to see the interconnectedness of seemingly opposite forces.
That's really cool.
It's a reminder that life is rarely black and white.
Yeah, this is making me realize that tarot is so much more than just a fortune-telling tool. It's like a way to understand yourself better, explore different perspectives, and even find creative solutions to problems.
Exactly. It's a tool for self-discovery.
Yeah.
A mirror reflecting back your own inner wisdom.
I like that. So as we continue to explore tarot, we might find ourselves drawn to certain cards or spreads more than others.
Right.
Should we pay attention to those preferences?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pay attention to those recurring themes. What are the cards trying to tell you? What lessons are you being invited to learn?
Okay, so like if I keep getting the Tower card,
Yeah.
maybe I need to pay more attention to the areas of my life where I'm resisting change or holding on to old patterns.
That's a great example.
Okay, this all makes so much sense.
Good. I'm glad.
You're really demystifying the whole process
Yeah.
and making it feel accessible even for someone who's completely new to tarot.
It's all about finding what works for you. There's no one right way to approach tarot.
Right.
So experiment, play with the cards, trust your intuition, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Okay. I'm ready to dive in. I'm already feeling inspired to pull out my deck and do some exploring.
Awesome.
But before we wrap up part 2, I want to touch on one more thing we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Reversed cards.
Yeah.
You mentioned that they're not necessarily negative, but that they can suggest blockages or alternative perspectives.
Yeah. And there are different approaches to interpreting reverse cards.
Okay.
Some readers see them as simply amplifying the energy of the upright card,
Okay.
while others view them as indicating a blockage or challenge related to that card's theme.
I see. So if I draw the Chariot reversed, which is often associated with willpower and determination, could it mean that I'm feeling a lack of control in some area of my life?
That's a great interpretation.
Okay.
Or maybe it's a sign that you need to reassess your goals and make sure they're truly aligned with your values.
Okay, so reverse cards can actually add another layer of depth to a reading.
Definitely.
They're not something to be feared, but rather an opportunity for deeper reflection.
Exactly. Embrace those reversed cards.
Okay.
They often point to those areas where we need to pay closer attention or make adjustments.
This has been so enlightening.
Good.
We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much to explore.
We'll be diving into even more specifics when we return for part 3.
Welcome back. I hope you've had some time to, really process everything we've talked about with tarot so far.
Yeah, it's quite a system, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how these cards can spark so much like introspection and self-discovery.
Definitely.
So before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to go back to something we touched on earlier, which is the symbolism within the cards.
Right.
I know we talked about like paying attention to water, swords, animals, colors. Yeah. Can you give us some concrete examples of how those symbols might actually influence a reading?
Of course. So let's take water, for example.
Okay.
Water often represents emotions, intuition, and the subconscious mind.
Okay.
So if you see a lot of water imagery in a reading, it might suggest that, you need to pay attention to your feelings.
Okay.
Or maybe explore a situation on a deeper, more intuitive level.
That makes sense. So like if I draw a card like the moon, which often shows like a moon reflecting in the water,
right,
it could be a sign to trust my gut feelings, even if things feel a bit unclear.
Exactly. The moon is all about embracing the unknown.
Okay.
And navigating by intuition rather than logic.
Okay.
And the water imagery just reinforces that message.
Got it. What about swords?
Swords. What comes to mind when you think about swords?
Well, I think of sharp things.
Yeah.
So maybe conflict arguments or even like mental clarity focus, you know?
Exactly. Swords are often associated with the mind, intellect, and communication.
Okay.
So they can point to, challenges or conflicts.
Right.
But they can also represent, breakthroughs in thinking, clear communication.
Gotcha.
Really, it all depends on the context of the reading and the surrounding cards.
Right. So we always have to remember to look at the whole picture.
Yes.
Not just individual cards.
Absolutely.
What about animals? I've noticed there are a lot of animals in some of the cards.
Yes. Animals often represent different qualities or archetypes.
Okay.
So, for instance, a lion might symbolize courage and strength, while a snake could represent transformation or healing.
Interesting.
Pay attention to the specific animal that's depicted.
Yeah.
And what it symbolizes to you personally.
Oh, so it's like those, spirit animal quizzes, where it's like, oh, your spirit animal is a wolf.
Exactly.
Or a dolphin, whatever. So those associations can apply to tarot, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And your personal connections to those symbols will just enrich your readings even more.
Okay. And then what about colors?
Colors hold powerful symbolism as well.
Yeah. Remind me. What are some of the basic color associations?
Okay, so red often represents passion, energy, and action.
Okay.
Blue might symbolize peace, tranquility, or communication. And green can indicate growth, abundance, or healing.
Got it.
Pay attention to how the colors make you feel.
Yeah.
And how they might connect to the card's overall meaning.
This is blowing my mind. I mean, there's just so much depth to uncover in each card.
It is there.
I'm realizing that learning tarot is like a lifelong journey.
It is. And the more you explore, the more you'll discover. And as you practice, you'll find that your intuition becomes stronger and your interpretations will become more nuanced and insightful.
Before we say goodbye, what would you say is the most important thing for someone to remember as they kind of embark on their tarot journey?
I would say embrace curiosity and trust yourself.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to experiment, to make mistakes, and to let your intuition guide you.
Okay.
Tarot is a powerful tool for self-discovery, but it's ultimately up to you to interpret the messages and apply the wisdom to your own life.
That's a great takeaway. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and passion for tarot with us.
It's been my pleasure.
I know I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have too.
Me too.
Listener, we would love to hear from you. What resonated with you most in this deep dive? What are you excited to explore further? Share your thoughts and insights with us on social media. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the fascinating world around you.